Chapter 1. Bound to the Alpha. Adrian's hands trembled as he wiped down the bar at Eclipse, a club buried deep in the underbelly of the city. It wasn't just any club, it was a haven for omegas like him, barely surviving under the shadow of debts and dangers. Here people came to forget their problems, but for Adrian, this place was just another chain, tying him to his miserable existence. Every night he donned his mask, a glittering, intricate design that covered the upper half of his face. The mask wasn't just for show. It was protection. Anonymity meant survival when you owed money to the wrong people. And yet, every night, he found himself stealing glances at him. Nikolai Petrov, the alpha who owned everything in this city worth owning, including Eclipse. He was wealth personified. Tailored suits that fit his muscular frame perfectly, cold, piercing eyes that seemed to command the very air around him, and an aura that screamed danger. For months, Adrian had watched Nikolai from the shadows, yearning for something he knew he couldn't have. Nikolai didn't know he existed. Why would he? Adrian was just an Omega bartender, one of dozens who worked under Nikolai's expansive empire. But all of that changed one fateful night. The bar was crowded, the air thick with the mingling scents of alphas, betas, and omegas. Adrian was trying to avoid the leering gaze of a particularly drunk alpha, Ren, a regular who had a reputation for being handsy. He gritted his teeth and focused on the drink he was mixing, hoping the alpha would lose interest. "Hey, Omega," the alpha slurred, leaning too close. "How much for a night with you?" Adrian stiffened. "I'm not for sale." The alpha grabbed his wrist, his grip bruising. "Everything here is for sale." Before Adrian could scream, the alpha was yanked back with a force that sent him sprawling. Standing in his place was none other than Nikolai. The club fell silent. Nikolai's cold eyes swept over the scene, landing on Adrian for the first time. His gaze burned into him, and he felt exposed despite the mask. "Get him out of here," Nikolai ordered his men, his voice sharp enough to cut steel. The alpha was dragged away, protesting incoherently, but Nikolai's attention never wavered from Adrian. "You," he said, his tone softer but no less commanding. "Come with me." Adrian's heart pounded as he followed Nikolai into his private office, a luxurious space overlooking the club. The door shut behind them with a click, and Adrian's knees felt weak. "Take off your mask," Nikolai demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Adrian hesitated. I can't." Nikolai's hand shot out, his fingers brushing the edge of the mask. "You're mine now. You don't need to hide from me." The possessiveness in his tone sent a shiver down Adrian's spine. Something primal in Nikolai's gaze told Adrian that his life was about to change forever. Chapter 2. Bargain. Adrian hadn't expected to end up in Nikolai's penthouse. He hadn't expected to be stripped of his mask, his anonymity, and his freedom all in one night. Nikolai sat across from him, his intense gaze never leaving Adrian's face. "You owe a debt, don't you?" Adrian swallowed hard. "How do you know that?" Nikolai leaned back, a predatory smile playing on his lips. "I know everything about you, Adrian. Your debts, your past, even your heat schedule." Heat. The word made Adrian's cheeks flush. Omegas were vulnerable during their heat cycles, and the idea of Nikolai knowing something so intimate about him made him feel naked. "I can protect you," Nikolai said, his voice soft but firm. "I can pay off your debt. No one will touch you ever again. But there's a price." Adrian's heart sank. "What? What do you want?" Nikolai leaned forward, his scent enveloping Adrian like a drug. "You. 3 nights during your next heat." Adrian's breath hitched. He wanted to say no, to push Nikolai away, but the alternative was unthinkable. The loan sharks wouldn't stop until they had his blood. 3 nights, Adrian whispered, his voice barely audible. "And then you'll let me go." Nikolai's smile didn't reach his eyes. "If that's what you want." But deep down, Adrian knew it wouldn't be that simple. Chapter 3. The first night. When Adrian's heat arrived, Nikolai was there. He claimed him with an intensity that bordered on obsession, his hands and mouth leaving marks that declared to the world that Adrian was his. Nikolai's possessiveness only grew with each passing night. By the 3rd night, Adrian was overwhelmed, not just by the bond forming between them, but by the realization that Nikolai had no intention of letting him go, because Nikolai had marked him permanently in his heat. "You're mine, Adrian," Nikolai growled, his voice thick with alpha dominance. Forever. Nikolai's obsession with Adrian drives him to control every aspect of his life. As he struggles to maintain his independence, Nikolai's possessiveness becomes both a source of comfort and conflict. Though Nikolai's role as a mafia billionaire adds layers of danger and intrigue to their relationship, and Adrian finds himself caught in the crossfire of Nikolai's enemies, forcing them both to confront their feelings. Chapter 4: A New Beginning. Adrian sat on the edge of the massive bed in Nikolai's penthouse, his hands trembling as he anticipated the test in his lap. The two bold lines stared back at him, unyielding and pregnant. His mind raced. Omegas could get pregnant during heat. It was a fact he'd known his whole life, but he can't believe it could happen to him. Not now, not after everything. What would Nikolai say? Would he even care? For all his possessive tendencies, Nikolai had never mentioned children or what he truly wanted from Adrian beyond the 3 nights they'd shared. His pregnancy complicates their dynamic, tying him to Nikolai in ways he never anticipated. And perhaps now that he discovered the life growing inside him, he realized there was no escape. The soft click of the door broke Adrian's thoughts. He looked up to see Nikolai stepping into the room, his sharp suit tailored to perfection, his piercing gaze immediately locking onto Adrian. "You've been quiet today," Nikolai said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. "What's wrong?" Adrian swallowed hard, his heart hammering in his chest. I need to tell you something." Nikolai frowned, moving closer. He knelt in front of Adrian, his large hands resting on the Omega's knees. "Tell me." Adrian hesitated, but there was no use hiding it. He held out the test, his hand shaking. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, Nikolai said nothing. His expression was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the test as if trying to process the words. Then, slowly, his lips curled into a smile so genuine it took Adrian's breath away. "Pregnant," Nikolai repeated, his voice almost reverent. "You're carrying my child." Adrian blinked. "You're happy?" Nikolai stood, pulling Adrian into his arms, with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his usual commanding demeanor. "Happy doesn't even begin to cover it." He cupped Adrian's face, his thumb brushing against his cheek. "This changes everything." Adrian's eyes filled with tears. "I was scared. I didn't know how you'd react." Nikolai's expression softened further. "I know I can be intense, but you're mine, Adrian. You and our baby. I'll do whatever it takes to protect both of you." As their bond deepens, Adrian must decide if he can trust the alpha who owns his body, and perhaps his heart. Now, for the first time in years, Adrian felt a glimmer of hope. Months later. The penthouse was unrecognizable. Where once it had been a sleek, minimalist space, dominated by shades of black and gray, it was now warm and inviting, filled with soft colors, and a nursery tucked into the corner of the house. 6 months ago, the moment Nikolai found about Adrian's pregnancy, he proposed to him for marriage, and within the next week they had a small but beautiful wedding with only Nikolai's close friends in it, because both Adrian and Nikolai doesn't had any family members left alive. Adrian stood by the window, one hand resting on his swollen belly, as he gazed out at the city. The sunset bathed the skyline in hues of orange and pink, but his attention was elsewhere, on the sound of footsteps approaching. Nikolai appeared beside him, wrapping his arms around Adrian from behind. His hands rested protectively over Adrian's stomach. "You should be resting, wifey," Nikolai murmured, pressing a kiss to Adrian's temple. Adrian leaned back against him, a smile playing on his lips. "I've rested enough. Besides, I wanted to see the sunset." Nikolai chuckled softly, his deep voice sending a shiver down Adrian's spine. "Stubborn as ever." Adrian turned to face him, his smile fading slightly. "Do you think, we'll be good parents?" His mood swings and insecurities coming up again. Nikolai's eyes softened as he cupped Adrian's face. "We'll be the best parents. Our child will never want for anything. Not love, not safety, not happiness, because before asking, we will be giving it to him." Adrian's heart swelled at the conviction in Nikolai's voice. Despite their rocky beginning, he could see the truth in Nikolai's eyes. The alpha, who had once seemed cold and unreachable, now looked at him with nothing but devotion. A sharp kick from the baby made Adrian wince. Nikolai immediately dropped to his knees, his hands cradling Adrian's belly. "Someone's eager to meet us," Nikolai said with a grin, pressing a kiss to Adrian's stomach. Adrian laughed, running his fingers through Nikolai's hair. Just like their father, always in control. Nikolai stood, pulling Adrian into his arms again. and just like their mother, strong, resilient, and impossible to ignore. Adrian blushed but didn't protest. Chapter 5. Our Happy Ending. When the baby finally arrived, Adrian's life changed forever. Holding their child, a tiny bundle with Nikolai's piercing eyes and Adrian's soft features, filled him with a joy he hadn't thought possible. Nikolai was a devoted father, balancing his ruthless business dealings with late-night feedings and diaper changes. He refused to let anything, or anyone, threaten his family. As weeks turned into months, Adrian realized something profound. The life he had once thought impossible, a life filled with love, safety, and happiness, was now his reality. And through it all, Nikolai remained by his side, proving time and again that Adrian and their child were the most important things in his world. And for the first time, Adrian wasn't just surviving, he was living. And he was finally undeniably loved by that same alpha whom he once thought will never notice him.